Okay. What a special soul, and how fortunate we were to know him. Erich Barimshah Jessawala, a most fortunate slave, chose the path of freedom in coming to Meherabad. Erich was born on October 13th, 1916, in Bombay to Zoroastrian parents, Baram and Gaimai Jessawala. The first time Erich remembered meeting Meherabad was in 1925 at the age of 9, when he was on a trip with his family to Ahmednagar. Erich's mother Gaimai's family lived at Akbar Press. She was one of the sisters of the brothers that Baba said he was the seventh brother. Her brother, one of the brothers, had told Gaimai that they met someone who reminded them of Zoroaster. As they rode along, Baba was behind them. Erich fell from the back of the horse carriage they were traveling in and seriously hurt his elbow. Baba picked him up and lovingly comforted him. Baba had Erich sit on his lap, put Duni ash on Baba's elbow, and wrapped a handkerchief around it. Erich was amazed that a total stranger could express so much love and concern. And that was his first meeting. From 1925 on, Meher Baba would visit their family home, Mary Lodge, in Nagpur. In August 1930 at Nagpur, Baba told Gaimai, Erich is my son, I will give you another. Baba would play games with Erich, but Erich wanted to be with his teammates at school games. Baba understood that. He started having Erich read his alphabet board as a game. Erich, it turned out, was a natural. Erich enjoyed this immensely. In later years, Erich became Baba's chief interpreter. In 1936, Erich was 20 years old and studying in college in Benares. What do you want to become? Erich replied he wanted to study engineering. Baba asked Erich, would you be my engineer instead? In 1938, May 1938, Baba sent a telegram to Erich saying to come immediately to him in Panchgani. It was extremely hot, 120 degrees, and Erich continued working in their garden to protect the many plants from the heat. Within an hour, another telegram arrived saying the same thing, but sent from a different railway station. Erich's mother Gaima implored him to go immediately. Erich did. Erich left so rapidly, he left the keys in the glove compartment. At the train station, he asked the guard to look over at the car, to watch over the car. But when his Papa Jessawala arrived, he was not pleased to find out that when Erich arrived in Panchgani after a brief conversation, everything behind and come to that. Erich replied, Baba then asked Erich to come on August 1st, 1938. Then Baba said, is it possible for all the family to leave everything and come and follow me? Again, Erich replied, by your grace, everything is possible. That is good, said Baba. Tell them to come also. When you come, bring a trunk and sleeping bag for each and bring the car. Only those things. When Erich returned to tell his parents, his mother, Gaimai, was overjoyed. His father, who had created extensive property and assets for the family, shrugged his shoulders and replied, but he so kindly said, all this I have done for you all, that you may have happiness. But if you find greater happiness at his feet, then I am all the more happy. Then his father said he was too busy to wind up the estate, so he asked Erich to be responsible and said he would sign the papers. This was May 23rd, 1938. They were to come August 1st of that year. So Erich had a very short time to wind up the estate and other matters. Later, Baba sent a message. Tell your father that his retirement is in 6 months, so he should not retire prematurely. On August 1st, 1938, the whole family came to Baba. Papa Jessawala came for 1 week before he retired from his position. Erich assisted Baba with the mat ashram when he first came. Erich said his training was a precursor to his life with Meher Baba. They went on the blue bus tours. As soon as Elizabeth's car came, Erich drove the bus. After the rest of the family came to Baba in 1938, Baba asked them to live in Jabalpur and then Bangalore. In 1943, Baba asked them to move to Pune and told them to be there for 15 days. Those 15 days lasted for many, many years. Many of us remember going to Bindra House. Due to the lack of water and other difficulties at Meherabad, Baba wanted a new place with water. In 1943, they found an old rest house in Pimplegown. It wasn't named Meherazad until 1948, which ended up being the place where Erich lived, and then subsequently, after Bindra House was being sold, the rest of the family moved there. In Erich's book, That's How It Was, Erich shares 2 intimate times with Baba. Erich said, although I spent so much time with Baba, I almost never got the opportunity to simply stare at him. When Erich went to help Baba, he gestured, no, you sit. So Erich sat there near Baba's chair, simply looking at Baba. Not a word was said. They sat in silence, simply staring at each other. Erich found cool tears streaking down his cheeks. Nothing was ever said, but that remains one of Erich's treasured memories of his time with Baba. Before the beginning of the new life, and this is the second intimate time, Baba wanted a period of relaxation. Erich suggested a place on the coast called Vengurla. Baba sent the women to the beach. Baba and Erich went to contact a must. Instead of walking 3 miles to reach the distant town, Baba asked Erich to cross the inlet waters in one of the dugout canoes the fisher boys used. The boat capsized. Erich caught hold of Baba and they safely reached the shore. Erich had to leave Baba alone to get him fresh clothes. After contacting the must, Baba said to Erich, as you gave me your helping hand today to help me out of these murky waters, a day will come when I will lend you my hand and pull you out of the muck of illusion. In 1949, Erich was one of the New Life companions who was with Baba throughout the entire New Life. Whenever they traveled, Baba walked with Erich as his interpreter and companion. The women would be behind them, the men mentally even further behind. After the New Life, Erich was exhausted. In 1952, Baba asked him to come and visit the Meher Center with him, but Erich said, I'm just too tired. His body needed rest. So instead, Baba sent Erich and Pendu to Hamirpur and Andhra State to tell villagers about him. That turned out to be an exhausting trip also. Erich was unsure of what to say. He'd never spoken about Baba before. Baba told Erich to stand up, remember me, and speak. In the 1950s, Erich worked on God Speaks. He wrote the 9th chapter of that book, working from a chart by Meher Baba under Baba's direct supervision, and he wrote the book's conclusion. Erich's stories of his life with Meher Baba were also published during his lifetime. In 1956, Erich visited the Meher Center and stayed in Baba's house. Later in 1956, December, there was the car accident in Satara. This was a very difficult time for Erich. In 1958, he returned to the Meher Spiritual Center again with Meher Baba. Erich was intimately involved with all of Meher Baba's activities as his closest companion. In the 1960s, Erich spent summers at Guru Prasad. In 1962, Erich was integral part of the East-West Gathering. In 1965, he was an integral part with the Eastern Sahabas. When Baba dropped the body, January 31st, 1969, Erich spent 7 days at Meherabad welcoming those who came to offer their respects to Baba's body. Erich saw that Begin the Begin was played 7 times. When Baba was asked about Erich, who he called his Peter, he said, or he signed, "If at all I enjoy the company of anyone, it is Erich." He also signed and said, "Do you know how very important Erich is for my work? By remaining by my side, he serves me 24 hours a day, keeps watch by my side, reads my signs and gestures, looks after my smallest chores, and in addition tackles correspondence. Nowadays, I ask Erich for his free and frank opinion whenever I am in doubt about my dealings with others." Baba also said he is a gem. He called Erich matchless. Erich survived Meher Baba by 32 years. He continued to live at Meherazad and worked for the Avatar Meher Baba Trust in the trust office in Ahmednagar until 2001. He continued to be an inspiration for followers of Meher Baba from the East and West until the end of his life. On August 31st, 2001, "Oh Baba" slipped from his lips. His beloved's name was the last word Erich spoke aloud. The men and women Mandali and Meherazad family sent the following. Beloved Avatar Meher Baba fulfilled his promise to Erich Jessawala on 31st August 2001 at 2:31 a.m. when he gave Erich his hand and pulled him out of the muck of illusion to live eternally in him. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. And I'd like to finish with a few words that Devana sent as well. Erich passed away from our midst to be reunited with his beloved Lord, Avatar Meher Baba. And it has often struck me that it was on this same date, 31st August 1949, that Baba held the New Life meeting in Meherabad, in which each of the men were required to sign whether they would willingly accept all the conditions of the New Life. There was no question of ifs, and buts allowed. Baba said each one on his own had to decide to write yes, that they wished to accompany Meher Baba as one of his companions, or no, they would not. Yes or no, nothing else. Erich wrote yes. After Baba had returned to Meherabad from his New Life wanderings, he gathered the Mandali together and spoke to them about Erich. Alaba recalled Baba remarking, "Erich's obedience is such that if I were to tell him to cut himself into pieces, he would find a way to do it. He is the life of the new life. What better words could describe Erich than those of his Lord speaking of it, what it means to live a life of surrenderance? Erich's life is such an example that it shall continue to shine out for all those who long to love and strive to live for the Lord for the next 700 years. Divine. Jay,
Jay, Baba Karen. Always read with such wholehearted love. Thank you so much. You speak so lovingly of Erich. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'll start it now. Jay Baba.
The man of God is drunken without wine. The man of God is full without need. The man of God is rapturous and amazed. The man of God has neither food nor sleep. The man of God is the man of God is a king neath beggar's clothes. The man of God is a treasure in a ruin. The man of God is not of wind and earth. The man of God is not of fire and water. The man of God is the man of God is the man of God is a sea without a shore. The man of God rains pearls without clouds. The man of God has 100 moons and skies. The man of God
Beloved Baba, I remain beholden to you for everything that you have done for me. In spite of what I am and how I am, you have always overlooked my weaknesses and forgiven me my trespasses. You've never once chastised me, on the contrary, you have always showered your love upon me, and your graces upon me. I have no words to express my gratitude but to utter, oh Baba, oh Baba, oh Baba, I'm grateful to you for everything. I remain grateful to you ever and ever. Oh Baba, I beseech you, implore you, and beg of you. Never, never, ever let me down, Baba, never, ever let me down. Never, ever reject me, but accept me as I am and how I am. Oh Baba, guard me and guide me and help me. Hold my hand and lead me on till the very end. Fill me with your love from top to bottom, from side to side, inside and outside, so that your love pervades and permeates me, engulfs and envelops me, and all that is your love and not I. I remain resigned to your will, and let thy will be done always.
Jai Baba. Well, I'd like to open it for anyone who would like to speak about Erich. I'm going to just put in the chat how to raise your hand electronically. We do this by hitting Alt-Y on a PC, Option-Y on a Mac, *9 on a phone, and there's a little reaction button at the bottom. So nobody's jumping. I will just show this picture. This is a picture in 1985 on top, well, not on the top, but close to the top of Seclusion Hill. For some reason, I just never went up the hill. I was there for 5 weeks, and everybody was going up and getting crystals, and I don't know why I didn't go, but I didn't. And one day Erich came out and said, "Has anyone not been up the hill?" And so I raised my hand, and he said, "Well, then you walk with me." So I got to walk up the hill with Erich, and just such a beautiful, beautiful experience to be near him like that, and to have him just put his attention on me. It was so sweet. I also took time to speak to him in his room because I was having some things that I needed. I needed someone to talk to as a friend in my spiritual life, in my spiritual journey. And so he filled the bill. There's no doubt about that. He said to make friends with my mind. And so that's something I've always cherished and tried to do whenever I was having difficulty. It always works. All
Can
right.
you show the picture again, Ruthie, just a minute more?
Yeah. Let me see if I can get it to the...
Oh. It's wonderful.
Ruthie, what do you think he meant by make friends with your mind?
Well, he said to me, make friends with your mind. He said, tell your mind, thank you for everything that you have done for me. Thank you for helping me get through school and getting a job so that I have a house and a roof over my head. Thank you for everything that you do every day for me to keep me, just moving through my day. And tell your mind, thank you for leading me to Meherabad, that my mind will take me to Baba. So that's what he told me.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's good to have you here today. Meherabad, would you like to share?
Yeah, yesterday I was reading something and it was really very touching, which I had read about Erich. It said that how he had asked Baba, why do you this thing? Why do you give only darshan? Why to people? I think to people, and he said just as a glimpse. He says, why do people just come and this thing? I'll read the whole thing exactly. Erich Jessawala asked Baba why he gave so little time to each person who came for his darshan. Baba replied, just a glimpse of me is enough for a lifetime. There will come a time when I will be not at one place, but I will appear to them in 1,000 places and 1,000 forms. I will give them darshan in their own homes. But for the present, even a glimpse of me is enough. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba Meher, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Dana? Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. First of all, thank you, Karen, for that wonderful biography. You always do such a great job with those. And thank you, Ruthie, for the beautiful slideshow. That was lovely. Wonderful images of him. I took a few notes over the years, and not very many, but I just looked up a few things this morning. I thought I'd just read from some of my entries in somewhat of a diary from, this is in March 1979. Erich today spoke of God's will and so-called free will, which doesn't really exist. He said there comes a point when to even say, thy will be done is a blasphemy, as it was to Teresa. Who am I to say thy will be done? Thy will is. Let's see what else there is. These are some notes that this was conveyed by a talk of Erich's in the hall. When you are continuously in the ocean, you feel neither the beauty of its waves nor the pain of being upon the dry land. When you live upon dry land, you feel the waves as they hit you and the separation from them as you experience being stranded. In the first, your being is not based upon experience, but upon having already plunged into the service of experience. Into the source of experience. In the second, your life is based upon experience only. Erich's complaint was that he was as a rock in the ocean, being hit by the waves and feeling nothing. And of course, I've lost something else I was going to read. And I'd like to attempt to tell this little story that really touched me when Erich told it a few times, and you all may have heard it. One of the times he told it, there was a young girl who was visiting Meherabad and Meherazad, and she'd been there for quite a while and had been in the hall with Erich many times, had heard many, many stories. And Erich was very tired. It was near the end of the season, and he thought he'd really spent all his storytelling. And this girl approached him in the trust office and said, Erich, could you just tell me one more story? Could you tell me one more story? And he threw up his hands and said, oh, you've been here all these weeks and months. You've heard all these stories. What more possibly? He was either said or thought this. Anyway, he expressed he was a little fed up with this girl. And he dug deep, and then he told this story. There was a woman, a very beautiful woman, who came to see Baba. I think she was brought by Anita DeCaro, Anita Villard. She was very beautiful, but she was in total despair. And she came before Baba, and Baba said, what is it? What is the matter? She said, Baba, he said, you're very beautiful. And she said, yes, and not only that, I'm very wealthy. And he said, you seem to be healthy too. What could possibly be wrong? She said, I don't want to live. I want to take my life. I'm fed up with life. I have nothing to live for. And Baba said, what you can do is commit suicide here at my feet. Put your head at my feet and commit the real suicide. Surrender your old life. And now, and she did that. She put her head there, and Baba said, now your life is mine. It's no longer yours. From this moment on, live for me. Your life belongs to me. It no longer belongs to you. This is the real suicide. The young girl who had asked for the story from Erich said, this is such an emotional thing. It was such a touching story. She said, Erich, today is my 21st birthday, and I had decided to take my life if I couldn't find any reason to live. And this story has given me that reason. And every time he told this story, there wasn't a dry eye in the hall. So remarkable. I had to leave the hall and take a walk after that second time he told it. But and it was so touching how he said he was so fed up and that he had to tell one more story. But Baba, he lived for Baba, so he told the obviously right story. One time, in the very early days, I was wearing a necklace somebody had made for me and given me, and Erich admired it. And I said, oh, this was given to me by a very sweet woman. He said, oh, do you always see the sweetness? I see the bitter and the sweet. And I promptly burst into tears. Sorry, this is a little teary talk. But anyway, I think that's enough out of me for now. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Dana. Jai Baba.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for the tears. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Radha, you found the hand.
Found the hand. Well, I was blessed to go to India just once, but it has really lasted me a lifetime. I went in 1988. I remember when I went to buy my ticket, I got in the car and turned on the ignition. And for the very first time, I heard Bobby McFerrin sing, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." So I figured it was a good time for me to go. And I traveled alone. I went out of the country. I'd never done either one of those, but I had a really good traveling companion. And of course, when I met Erich, I was mesmerized because I felt like I'd met the greatest human being I'd ever met, really. And I just could not get enough of Erich's stories. But I was there right before Erich was going to celebrate his 50th year with Baba. And as I was watching Erich tell these stories, I was like, he's told these stories over and over, hundreds and hundreds of times. And I just thought, wow, that must be, so much love, obvious, but also really hard in some ways. So I'm sitting there listening to Erich, and I look up at the picture of Baba, and I go, Baba, this is Erich's 50th anniversary with you coming up. And couldn't you just give him a little bit of a break? Couldn't you just let him sit and listen to other people's stories? He's such a good servant. Could you give him that gift? And then, of course, I just continued to listen to the stories, and we went away, and then we got to come back. And I think it was my last day, actually, in India. And I walked in, sat down, and Devana said, I'm sorry to tell you, but Erich has lost his voice. And so Alaba is going to come and talk to you. And so Erich was sitting over under the window the way he always is, and Alaba was on the other side of the room, and I had no patience for Alaba. I couldn't take it in. I wanted to hear Erich tell the stories, and I would, so I would look to one side and I would see that Erich was absolutely miserable because he couldn't do his work. And then I turn and I try to listen to Alaba, and I couldn't take any of it in. And I just kept going back and forth like this. I was like in between the two of them. And finally, I heard this little thing that sounded like psst, psst. And I looked up at Baba's picture, and Baba said to me, what are you doing? You're supposed to be thinking about me. You're supposed to be thinking about me, not about these guys. And I went into this amazing darshan for the entire time Alaba was talking. And I just lost track of time and was so blessed to have that time with Baba. So the bell rings, we go to lunch. I go up to Erich. I go, Erich, of course, I was an idiot, but I said, Erich, I feel like I owe you an apology. And he said, he would just kind of whisper talk. He'd say, what are you talking about? And I said, well, Erich, I asked Baba for you to be able to just sit and listen to other people's stories on your anniversary with Baba, because you spend all of your time telling these stories. And Erich grabbed me by the shoulders and he shook me really hard. I mean, not really hard, but hard enough. And he goes, don't ever ask God for anything except to love him more. Think about God. Everything else is trash. And I've always remembered that moment. And as I got on the bus to leave, he said, continue to tell your stories. Tell your stories. And when we got back from lunch, I got my wish. Devana said, Erich would like all of you to tell your stories. And so I've always been so grateful for Erich. I love this picture. It was shown in the film, but I have this picture of Erich, and then next to it, I have Baba's picture, so that he's always looking up at Baba. because I feel like the reason so many of us really love Erich so much is that he is such an amazing model to take us to Baba. You know, he's everything he does always leads us to Baba. So I'm very happy to be able to celebrate with you today his life. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Jai Baba Radha. That was just beautiful. Thank you. Great story. All right. Anyone else? I know lots of people had time with Erich. I'm sure somebody has something they'd like to share.
You know what? I do have one other thing I could share.
Sure.
It's okay if nobody else wants to share right now. I have started, I've recently retired from teaching, and I've started doing, listening to the Mandali talks on my morning walk. The story that we heard earlier that Dana told, I recently heard. Erich, you must have been in the room, Dana. I heard the recording of Erich telling that story. And it's been wonderful for me because I only went to India one time. So to hear all of the Mandali, these are amazing podcasts, and it's a great way to start my day. But as I was right at the beginning of this, I heard about the podcast, and I was having a hard day. And I stepped out my back door and I said, Baba, I really need some help. I need some help today. I need to feel your presence more today. And I started walking. I walk up and down the alley behind my house because it's a nice big hill, and I try to do that for my exercise. I started walking and I started listening to the recording. And it was me. It was me in India talking to Erich. So here I am, you know, my 73-year-old self listening to my, I guess maybe 40-year-old self, asking, how do we know what God's will is? But it was such a personal gift. Baba's so good at that. If we just ask, you know. So yeah, that was pretty great. I had a good day after that. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. And did Erich tell in the podcast, did Erich respond to what Baba's will was?
He laughed, which is why we all love him, right? He's like, how am I supposed to know what Baba's will is? I mean, the thing I loved about Erich was that he was so able to say, I don't know what I'm doing. That thing that we all feel all the time. He was so human, and he talks so much about how hard it was, and how all he knew was that he loved Baba. That's all he knew. And so that was the fuel for all of his service. And so thinking about that line he said, you know, think about me, everything else is, think about God, everything else is trash. Yes. Really kind of helps us come back to going to the source, because we get sidetracked. You know, we all get sidetracked. Religions get sidetracked. We love people, we get sidetracked. So anyway, big teaching there.
Thanks. Thanks, Radha. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Well, anybody else? Betty? Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay.
Papa.
Baba's telling me, don't be shy. Come on, be brave. I just two little times with Erich. Oh my goodness, it was so, it was always so hard in Munley Hall when it came time for Mara to be on the porch. Because it was so hard. I was just this, I had to make this, I had to tell myself, he loved her the most. You should, this is your time to go see her. I never wanted to leave Erich. But I always felt that conflict, and so I would go to the porch, and yeah, Erich was so warm and wonderful. Two times. One, I was there with my family, and I always felt so inadequate as a mom. These Indian mothers were so good with their kids, and their kids were, always good for Baba, and I never felt like I measured up as a mom. My kids didn't want to go to art a lot of time. Didn't want to anyway. They were American kids there for longer than they wanted to be there. So anyway, I was feeling that particularly acutely. We were at the trust compound for and I burst into tears, and I turned around, and I thought I was going to see Bao, but Erich was standing there just shining. I remember him in a brown suit, and I just ran to him, and with no explanation, he grabbed me and hugged me, and there was no words were exchanged at all, but I was just distraught and crying, and he just comforted me, and that was the encounter there. And another time with him, I don't know, it was before then or after then, but it was my turn to be. He wanted to know who I was. Who are you? And so I got invited into that sweet little cabin, which was the cabin on Seclusion Hill. My God, what a setting. And he just, that's all. I don't remember the exchange. I just know that was my time with Erich, and that was his time to understand, who I was. And, that's it. That's really all. No specifics. Was just, yeah. So thanks, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Betty. I could just feel it as you ran to him. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an embrace. He was Gohair. I was going to say Dr. Gohair. Gohair. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Well, thank you so much for this beautiful sharing. I really enjoyed the video, the bio that Karen did, and Dana and Radha's stories really touched my heart. Beautiful indeed. About Erich, we used to always call him Erich Uncle. So of course, met him many, many times when we would go to India as a child, as a young teenager, and then of course, even after marriage. And he was always so welcoming, of course, so concerned about your well-being while you were there. I remember walking up to the Samadhi once, and it was during Amar Tithi time, and we were all walking together, and it was cold, and Erich turned to me and he said, "Where's your hat? You need some covering on your head. You cannot walk in this cold weather this early in the morning without a covering." So I promised him I would do so. But yeah, so just in general, very, very caring, loving soul. But the best part of Erich Uncle that I have with me today is a letter in his hand when in 1955, after 5 months of seclusion that Baba had after I was born, and my father had written to Baba to ask him to name me. after he had come out of seclusion because of the death of Ali Dubash's son, he had lined up all his women mandali and said to Mera, he said, well, there are too many times we've given your name. And then he turned to Mani and he said the same thing was with you too many times. And then he looked at Dr. Gohar and he said, well, what do you say? Do we send your name? And she said, Baba, of course, it's up to you. So Baba said, done. And so Erich wrote this letter to my father, which is one of my most treasured possessions with me today, in which he said, today Baba has named your daughter Gohar, into parentheses, jewel. The meaning of the word Gohar is jewel. So indeed one of my most treasured possessions. So I have a part of Erich uncle with me always. Jai Baba.
So beautiful, Gohar.
Thank you.
Yes. Letter from Erich, from Baba, beautiful.
His hand, yes.
Thank you, Jewel. I mean, go ahead.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Rosalie, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. I did want to say, for one thing, Karen Talbot, I love every time you do, the history, and this time especially, but you were breaking up at one point, and I wanted to hear what you said, and you didn't go back that far. One thing was, Erich had hesitated. He was taking care of the garden on a very hot day, and then the message came again to come, and the guy says, go. Well, he gets to the railway station, and I don't know what happened there, because you came back, as I remember, you came back to a point which I was so glad you came back to, but you didn't go all the way back. So that I want to know. But then I just have to say, and the film, the pictures of Erich were so beautiful. To see Erich as a baby, oh my God, that was so precious. As I understand it, Erich watched over Mera and Mani. He never went traveling. And I'm sure everyone wanted him to come to their spot in the world. He was responsible for Mera and Mani, and of course he died after. Not till his duty was over, because he gave his word. And I loved how his loving of Baba, because he knew how much Baba loved Mera and how much Mera loved Baba. Baba said, she's my very breath, without which I cannot live. But when I would leave Mandalay Hall, the moment Mera was on the porch, I just had to go. There was no glimpse of anything but, yes, go. That's loving. Boy, Erich right there. Loving, just this complete, whatever makes a beloved happy, whatever makes him happy. And I'm just so grateful for being, I remember I actually I sat near him one day, and I felt very shy to sit near him. Just, I don't know why, just felt shy. And I'm so happy Wynn Coates took my picture, and Susan White gave it to me. I was just so happy, because truly such just a beautiful human being. And this still helps me. Simple and Natural by Erich. Life is a joy with him. Without him, it is not. Joy is living with him. This is the new life. We are living from the heart, not the mind. He is the deeper self. There is no one to love but yourself. Love yourself more and more. This is your inner being, simple and natural. Erich knew. Jai Baba, and I thank you. It was in my fate to meet him, to sit there with him, to know such a beautiful soul exists. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba Rosalie, so well said. And I think Karen has, do you want to fill in that blank for her, Karen?
Oh, I'd be more than happy to. And my living room will never be the place where I read these bios again. Although I love the picture in there. First, I want to share my picture of Erich, which I believe was taken by Wincoats, who Rosalie mentioned. And Rosalie, thank you for letting me know where I had to start back up and asking me to read this again. That's very kind. So it's May 1938. The family is going to be going to give up everything and be with Baba. So Baba sends a telegram to Erich saying to come immediately to him in Panchgani. It was extremely hot, 120 degrees, and Erich continued working in their garden. He was a wonderful gardener. In fact, planes would go overhead, helicopter, I guess, whatever. They would go overhead to see the gardens. They were so spectacular. So Erich was trying to protect the many plants from the 120-degree heat. Within an hour, another telegram arrived saying the same thing, but from a different railway station. His mother Gaimai implored him to go immediately. Erich did. Erich left so rapidly, he left the keys in the glove compartment at the train station. He asked the guard to watch over the car, but Papa Jessawala was not pleased when he returned from his travels to find the car with the keys sitting in the lot. When Erich arrived in Panchgani after a brief conversation, Baba suddenly said, "If I were to ask you to leave everything behind and come and stay with me, is it possible for you to do that?" Erich replied, "By your grace, everything is possible." And then he asked if the family would agree. And Erich said again, "By your grace, everything is possible." Baba said, "Tell them to come also. When you come, bring a trunk and sleeping bag for each and bring the car, only those things." So is that where it was finished?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
I have to say, you do such a fabulous economy of what you say. And then when you go, and I couldn't hear you, it was like, oh no one's saying anything. Oh.
That's so sweet of you, Rosalie. I very much appreciate that.
No, and I appreciate it so much because you obviously have a special talent for it.
I don't know about that, but
well, it's very special. And I didn't want to miss these little things you're saying, because these are about huge souls, little things about huge souls. It's not little. Yeah. Jai Baba, thank you.
Jai Baba.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Ruthie, I have a few more things that I have to read.
Okay.
I have stories, but I would prefer to read some of these things. This is from Rick Chapman, who writes eulogies when Mandali members pass. And I'm just going to read part of it. "There has been no one like Erich, not since Ali, not since Peter, not since Arjun, not since Hanuman, and there cannot be until the beloved God-man comes again. Just as the avatar always has a divine counterpart, as Mera was to Baba, so it is the beloved's wish to have one of his male disciples so closely identified with him, despite the inimitable perfection of all his other disciples. In the age of Meher Baba, that disciple was Erich, and he will be remembered as such for advents to come. But Erich's role in the Advent is one thing. Meeting and knowing him was another. Could it be that being a true slave of the friend makes one a true friend to all? Erich opened the door of his heart to everyone who came for the beloved, and few could resist the invitation to accept his friendship in the love of the Lord. For many, that friendship would become the touchstone of their relationship with Baba, a pole star in the universe of their learning to know and love the divine beloved. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Judy, did you have something oh, I'm sorry. Did you have more to read, Karen?
Well, later, but I have what's here, which is Erich's prayer. So I'll read
Yes.
that later at the end, maybe.
Yes, that was the song that Daryl Smith sang also in the
good.
video.
Good.
Beholden to you, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Judy said she had something to add to the story that
Great.
you had been telling. Do you want to do that, Judy?
Yes, but first I'd like to thank Karen for her immaculate synopsis of Erich's life and every other Mandali that you've done. And Ruthie, your beautiful, beautiful slideshow with the music. But yeah, since Rosalie, this is for you. This is a more detailed rendition of that day in 1938 when Erich was summoned by Baba to come and be with him. And so Erich didn't willingly, so he received that first telegram and read it and put it in his pocket, and then went on caring for the plants because he felt, they needed it. And when the telegram came, and this was the normal procedure, the person doing the delivery would be on a bicycle, and he would ring his bicycle bell, and his mother heard it, and Erich heard it. Erich went out and received it from him, and his mother came almost immediately and said, Erich, what was that? And he, without speaking, he handed it to his mother to read the telegram from Baba saying, come immediately. And Gaimai said, well, Erich, what are you doing? Why haven't you already started to leave? And he said, Mother, immediately could be tomorrow or the next day. These plants need to be taken care of and so forth. And Gaimai chided him again. And then within the hour, when the second telegram came, and he basically did the same thing, she ran out to the greenhouse and said, Erich, you have to go. And so it was really Gaimai's double pushing that got him to actually take action of immediately. And so as Karen so aptly said, that he took his father's car, and in those days, almost no one had any car at all. And certainly the Jessawala car was by far the grandest in the whole area. So everyone knew precisely who it was. And, Erich felt, nobody would steal it. Everyone knows that it's Papa Jessawala's car. And, but he did ask the station master, as was said, to look after it. So he took the train, and we hear details of Baba's requesting first him and then his whole family if they could come and join him. And as was said, both times, Erich's answer was, by your grace, everything is possible. But then he went back as Baba instructed to go straight back on the train to his home in Nagpur. And so he did. But as soon as he got on the train, it was like, oh my God, what have I done? What is my father going to think that I have committed the whole family to come to him? Erich was really, really afraid of having, being in hot water, really hot water. And his father was called by Baba, his nickname was Pistol, because he had such a sharp sense of anger. And so when Erich arrived home, his mother, ran out immediately, met him at the door. And it's like, Erich, what did Baba say? Why did he call you? What news? And he stopped her in her tracks and said, Mother, I've been traveling. It's a really long journey. In those days, even longer than when any of us were doing it. And it's like, please, let me take a bath. It's dirty from the dusty journey, and have some refreshment, and then we can call everyone together and I'll tell the whole family. So that's what happened. Erich took his bath and his mother fed him, and he had some tea and so forth. And then they all went into their sitting room. And, Gai Mai is on the edge of her seat to find out. This is, she's the one in the Jessawala clan that knew Baba immediately as the avatar, and was so enthusiastic. And so, Erich tells what happened with Baba, and that he had said that we could, he'd committed the family to coming on the 1st of August in 1938, leaving everything but one bag or trunk for each person, and come to be in Baba's service for the rest of their lives. And a few details for anyone that may not know. Erich's father had a very important position in the Indian government, supervising at all of the boilers throughout the country. And anyway, so he was highly respected, and he was quite wealthy. He was quite well off because of his high position in the government. And so they had a vast estate. I have a tiny house, for which I'm very grateful, but they had great land, and the greenhouse and the gardens were gorgeous. There was an aviary where they had all these rare birds flying aloft and so forth. And this was what Papa Jessawala, their father, had created for the family to make them happy. And this was what they were going to be giving up. And so when Erich got to the phrase of, that Baba had asked if the whole family could come and join Baba, immediately Gai Mai's response was, how blessed we are. How blessed we are that the Lord himself is calling us to him of his own volition. And to me, that's one of the most beautiful phrases of joy in any story I've ever heard in any part of Baba's Advent, is Guy Mai's rejoicing at being called to the Lord. And as Karen very subtly said, the 2 weeks of renting Bindra House in Pune, that was going to be a short waiting period till they moved in, turned into, she said, many years. It was almost 50 years before they got called when Bindra House was sold in, it was either 1909, it was, yeah, they were there by 91. So I think it was 90, it was either late 89 or 90 that they moved to Meherazad. And they being, at that point, Guy Mai, Manu, and Merwan, her two of her other children. So at any rate, that's more details on that story. But since I'm already speaking, though people are ahead of me, what I would say about Erich is his incredible humility, his utter humility. And the story by Radha beautifully expressed it of like, why are you thinking of me and Alaba, when you should be focused on Baba? And I have a story I'll share, but I wanted to, this is my favorite picture of Erich that what Win Coates took. And it to me, it shows so much of his, just his openness, his simplicity, his presence. And the story, all I can say honestly is how blessed I feel I am with Erich, because I had the great good fortune, as Erich often would say, something fell to someone's lot, meaning, it was somehow in their karma or whatever. And it fell to my lot to have the great good fortune to go each Sunday morning for, I lived at, for some of you that may not know, I lived at Meherabad for many years. And, but on Sunday mornings, I would get up very early and take a rickshaw with Dr. Ann out to Meherazad at 5 in the morning. And we had the blessing of walking with Erich and Merwan on their morning walks. And they were precious times. And I thought I might give just a vignette from one, and then, which is Erich would fill his pockets. He had a special jacket he wore on his walks and so forth that had all these different pockets in it. And he filled them with different kinds of prasad. And there would be prasad for people, but there would be other prasad for dogs. And there might be 2 or 3 kinds of people prasad. And he seemed to have endless pockets filled with prasad. And as we would start, in earlier years, he could walk further, but this was from 91 till 2000, till 2000, because that last year of his life, his health was such he couldn't walk. And at any rate, we would walk down the approach road that the pilgrims bus would come on each day. And Erich, of course, knew every single person and pretty much all about their lives. There's all these, we don't tend to pay any attention, but there's all these huts. And in those days, there were huts, and then they turned into cement, more modern kind of structures. But farmers lived along the way with their families and their children and their goats and all of these, kind of things. And every one of them would come up. Everybody would, as Erich would walk by, and they'd come up for their prasad in a physical form, but Baba's love through Erich. And it was like having a sahavas all the way along to the reservoir. And it was Baba's love fests early in the morning. And it was delightful. And one of the things I particularly liked, I have a very active inner child, and who particularly likes goats and baby goats. And we'd been sort of, as the weeks were going by, one of the farmer's goats was quite pregnant. And then one Sunday morning, the day before, the baby goat had just been born. And the farmer picked it up and brought it straight to me to hold in my arms. And it was, one of my favorite memories. And it was, Erich knew a great deal about biology and botany in particular. And he would talk about all these different plants and things like that as we would go along. And he had one day he went out into the middle of a field and picked a loofah sponge that is, I thought they came from the sea, but they're a plant. Maharashtrian soil grows these, anyway. So I still have this sponge that I can bathe with that Erich picked out off the plant as we walked by. But he was very knowledgeable about those kinds of things. And then my final little, it wasn't little to me, but at any rate, the final thing I'll share at this point is that in 2000, that season, 2000 to 2001, that's when Erich's health wouldn't allow him to go on the walk anymore. And I worked usually with Balnatu, but sometimes I would take care of, one of the women mandali if they needed it. Anyway, so I worked at Meherazad and would go out either early on pilgrim days or on non-pilgrim days. I'd go out early for whatever duties I was doing. And one particular morning, something quite unusual for me happened. When I arrived, I was alone on the veranda with Erich. He was the only person there. Usually Devana was hovering around, or other people were coming and going. But it was just the two of us. And when Erich gave, I didn't have the good fortune to receive Mayor Baba's embrace in person. But what I am sure of in my own heart is that the closest thing on earth to that was Erich's hug. And, so so probably all of you had that hug where he would just enwrap, Baba's love would come through it just so fully. And as he's embracing me, I whispered in his ear, Erich, I miss you. Because I missed that intimacy of going on walks with him. And he, like Radha, pulled me out of that hug and put me at a distance and said, don't love me. Don't miss me, miss the Lord. And that turned out to be such a gift to me when Erich actually passed, because from that moment forward, I went back to how I came. The first time I was a pilgrim, I paid no attention to the mandali or anything. I was just so one-pointed, focused on Baba. And it really helped me let go of my attachment to one of my very, very, very favorite people on earth that I've ever known, dear Erich. So in the words of Guy Mai, and if I can say them for all of us, how blessed we are that the Lord himself has called us to be with him. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Judy. Thank you so much for your stories and your sharing from your heart. Beautiful. Marcia.
Baba.
Jai Baba. Go ahead, Marcia. Marcia, are you there?
Marcia, you're mute.
I got it. Okay, I got it.
Thank
I
you.
went to India and met Erich in 1994, and that was my first visit to India. So I was just the same way you were, Judy, with being, in awe of Baba, because I just got on the airplane and traveled by myself and got there, and then all of a sudden found myself in Mandalay Hall and meeting Erich, and the room was full of people, and he kept asking everybody their story, and I was like, what should I say? It's like how I came to Baba, so I was like frightened. And a lot of the times it was so heavy in there that I don't even remember his talks, because I was like, I don't know if I was sleeping or what, And then I do remember that I know I was led up the hill, went up the Seclusion Hill, and this was 1994. I'm pretty sure that he took us up there, but I could be wrong. But anyway, I do remember his embrace, how he would take you and, hug you on both sides. And, it was like really nice. But anyway, I just have a passage to read out of That's How It Was, his biography. And I'm reading from page 189. And he says, so much of what I have to tell you, all is plain common sense. You people make it such a mystery of it, but it's all really quite simple. You analyze everything and have so many questions. What should I do in this situation? What about that situation? But if someone does this, what should I do? You make it so complicated. That's why I always tell everyone who asks, first and foremost, just be determined to be his. Then everything else falls into place. Once you are determined to be his, you will only do those things which won't prevent you from being his. You don't have to analyze every single situation you find yourself in and try to determine what Baba wants you to do. You'll go crazy that way. Just determined to be his, and that determination will provide you with the answers you need in a very natural way. It's not some complicated exam with trick questions that you have to study and cram for. It's a question of just doing what naturally seems to be the right thing to do. But people say, how can we be determined to be his? What exactly does that mean? What do you mean? What naturally seems right? So I tell them, if it can't simply be determined to be his, then it's very simple. Just do those things you would not be ashamed to do in his presence. Say only those things you would say in his presence, and think only those thoughts you would feel comfortable thinking in his presence. You see how easy it is? So my only comment is now, after all these years, I discovered that I had Erich tapes and I've been listening to them, but I don't remember anything, hardly anything that was in that room. I just felt like I could feel the souls. I don't know if it was a vision or what I saw, but I saw all this in Mandalay Hall, all this like waves and stuff, like weird. But I do remember too being in conflict because Mani would be there and I'd want to be on the porch with Mani and be in the hall with Erich. But it was just lucky to have met him. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. And thanks for reading something from that book. That was beautiful. It's what we need to remember. All right, Miss Tina, thank you for waiting.
Story short. My first trip to India in 1972 with the society was very eventful. And the big conflict was Anna Rosa, who is the head of the society, told me that the Mandali hated actors. I was an actor. And she told me, don't ever tell them you're an actor. Don't speak to them. Just keep in the background because if they find out, they'll throw you out on your ass. So, of course, I go through the whole 3 weeks, hiding, staying in the background, trying not to make any waves because I didn't want to be asked what I did for a living. And so it was the last day. And I'm walking out toward the bus. I think I've made it through the whole time without any interaction with the Mandali, which was, I was very young, let's just say. And I hear this voice, Miss, I didn't meet you. And it was Erich. And he's like, oh, nice to meet you. What is your name? I was like, Tina. And he was like, Tina, beautiful name. And what do you do? And I just started crying and I said, you're gonna hate me, but I'm an actor. And he's like, oh, very, very nice. Baba loves actors. And I said, no. Anna Rosa said that she hated actors and you're gonna throw me out on my ass if you found out. And he just looked at me and smiled and he goes like this, every family has a crazy relative. So I just remember that and I did go back subsequent times and spent a lot of time with him, but that episode stood out.
Tina, didn't he tell you that Baba acted in theater or had?
Yeah, he told me Baba had a theater company and Baba loved actors. So it was to get that idea, and so yeah.
Well, I think every family has more than one crazy person.
Yeah, I might be one of them.
I know, I'm probably right up there too. Thanks, Tina. Jay Baba. Alan.
Okay.
Morning.
First off, I want to say I don't want to hear any more compliments for Karen's biographies. She gets a very swelled head.
I don't believe
and then
Alan,
you people,
I don't believe that.
Now listen to this. You people leave after the Zoom is over, and she gloats for at least 2 or 3 days with all the unnecessary compliments. So I just want to say, enough is enough. If people want to, stick their thumb up like that, not showing too much of the thumb, that's maybe acceptable. But after that, I'm sorry.
She has to balance out your big head.
Marta Flores, nobody asked for your opinion.
I know. I love you guys.
we want to see your face, so you have the courage to present it. You always hide yourself. But putting that minor detail aside, see if my face will get on instead of Marta Flores's name.
Alan, this is your opportunity to honor that wonderful woman.
Yeah, well, I get it all the time. So in any event, Betty, getting back to Erich, who actually was very fond of Karen. She did work at the trust office for 3 months in '78. Now, for my part, I met Erich in '73, and we went to Elora Caves that time and another time, I believe, and went up the hill quite a bit. In '77, then I was going to go to Kashmir. I was there for a long period of time. I just sold my business and hadn't started law school yet. And so I spent about 2 weeks with Mani and Erich going over the details of what Kashmir was about. They were very excited. Actually, at that point, there was a big article about where Christ was buried in Kashmir in what was then kind of similar to Life magazine. I don't know if that exists anymore. Maybe it's called Indian Times. VJ's behind me. He would know the name of it because he's very wise. But in any event, so that was an interesting article. And so Mani and I and Erich spent about 2 weeks pondering where I would go and what I would do. And that was a lot of fun. When we got married in December '79, eventually we took our honeymoon in India after I took the bar exam in '80. And we, of course, spent many weeks in India and enjoyed Erich's company, amongst others, because we would go in the hall. I want to say I didn't really ask many questions of the Mandali. I only recall 2 questions, and both at the same time. One was Noah the Avatar, and 2 was Jesus, was Abraham the Avatar, to which Erich said yes and yes. So you get that, my lack of curiosity, but at least a couple facts out of it. One of the more lovely experiences I had with Erich in 1988, Kitty had asked me to take my son Matthew, then 7, now 40, which is hard to believe, but that's a different issue. We could discuss that in therapy later. How come Betty's showing and I'm not? I don't get this. It's very curious. But anyway, so I asked Matthew to, I took Matthew to India. I was very busy. I was working, there we go. I don't get a chance to look at myself that much. So I brought Matthew to India. And when we arrived, of course, in those days, you signed in at the trust, in Adi's office. So when we got there, after, I guess, doing that, and he was a great trooper. He traveled very well, both there and back. We went into the trust office to see the Mandali, whoever was there. And Erich's office, if you recall, was outside in the back, in kind of the walkway there. He had a little desk and such. So we went back there also too, and I have a picture of it somewhere, but it's posted quite in my mind, of Matthew immediately attaching himself to Erich, and as if they were the oldest friends. It was very touching. And he hugged him on his right leg. Matt was 7 and Erich was, a grown man. And Erich is holding Matthew so closely. And I think at that moment, the trip was gravy after that, because I brought him all the way there on Kitty's request for that very moment. It was very sweet. I do remember the hugs that Erich would give, those big bear hugs. They were very touching. I just was a listener in Mandali Ball, except for the story of my telling how my grandfather at 80 became a Babal, and Erich really enjoyed that. Now I want to add one more thing. When we got married in late '79, then we, as I say, went to India in '80. Apparently, Erich told Karen Don't try and change him. Now, this is advice that Manali probably gave to many of the wives over the years. I can't speak for other wives, but I'm sure that advice lasted up to 15 or 20 minutes. And I would say that I probably held for some level, but it's only superficial. But it's the best he could do under the circumstances. So I remember Erich fondly. I remember Ursula Reinhardt when I would funnily say one of the men Mongoli's names, Adi, Padre, or Erich. And she would always say, she'd raise her head and go, now there was a man. And I want to speak for the guys here, all three of us, and say that that's true. The not that our fathers and others weren't role models to us, they were. But the men Mongoli were the truest role models. And I do agree with Ursula, and I like to throw the names out at her just so I could hear her reply. There was a man. Because the men Mongoli, those three particularly, but others, all the others as well, they were men. And the guys could really look up to them and see how the show has to be done. My friend Jack Mormon asked Erich he asked him something. He says, you know, Erich is sitting in Mongoli Hall. I wasn't there, but he told me the story. He said, you know, there's a certain unfairness to the guys. You think about it for a second. Erich looked, mildly puzzled. And he said, you know, the women, they go over there during the day and they could have tea with Mera. But what of our fate? We sit here with you when the women all go over to the veranda to have tea with Mera. We can't do anything. So is it possible we could have beer with Erich? Erich pondered, from what Jack said, Erich pondered the thought for a few seconds, like he would stroke his chin as if he was really thinking about something. He said, Jack, I could see what you're getting to. It makes good sense. But how would we do that? We're not allowed to drink alcohol at Meherazad. And when do I have the time to go into town? I'm either here or at the trust office. So your idea is good. Here with Erich, and again, had a pondering look that Jack reflected. He says, but I don't think it could work, but it's a good idea. So maybe one day, somewhere, the guys could have a beer with Erich, although I had tea with Mera, but I would also too like to have a beer with Erich to see he was a man.
Jay Baba. Alan, thank you. Yeah, I really got Erich when you did that chin thing. I can still see that. That was beautiful. Thank you, Alan. VJ, do you remember the magazine that he's talking about?
No.
It was like the time, like Indian Life or Times of India. It was like one of those big magazines, the way Life and Look magazine, where they have by 11. It had interesting stories with pictures and such like that.
Is it English magazine or a Hindi?
It was Indian magazine. It was
Meher Pukar is there.
This is not a Baba magazine. This is a ordinary magazine in India that the Mandali had there.
Maybe you're too young. No, there's so many magazines. Yeah, but mostly I've seen them with newspaper, and they were so fond of newspapers. Yeah, thank you, Alan. It's so nice of you. And yeah, am I audible or muted? Ruth? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You're audible, VJ. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Ellen. So nice of you, and the beautiful memories to share on this occasion. And I really like to pay my gratitude, love, regards, and whatnot. My God, definitely, Ellen, they are the role model, and even Baba appreciated because they create faith. They should be worshipped. They create faith in perfect master and God, and faith and trust. So definitely they are great people. And so much love. I think each of us got so much love from the Mandali, that so amazing, that really we really cry. That makes us cry. Oh, we miss them like someone dearest one. Even our family, our journey is at some part, at some point, and then it ends, the journey. But our journey with the Mandali and God, Meherabad, it's continuous. It just goes on, unending, many lifetimes till we get united. Yeah, so definitely I go. My father, when in 1938, Erich helped him. He bought him ticket to Mahabaleshwar, Pune, and wrote to Meherabad that he's sending this boy. He dropped him at the railway station and whatnot. And I find that the most lovable person. And he called me by the name Viju. And of course, I had to bear his anger also once when I was peeping into Baba's room at Guru Prasad, and he grabs me by collar. I think he's the only person in my life who grabbed me by collar, pulls me. But later on, he's like, whenever we meet, he just like this, punching me. So the kind of love and affection really makes us cry. And of course, so many stories always at the Mandali Hall, and so much to tell. But just I like to pay my love and regards and make it short. Thank you so much, Ruthie, and all of you, all dear Babu lovers. Jai Baba.
Dear Baba VJ, I could just feel him pulling my collar, and then this. I could see that too. Such a brother, such a brother. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Fred, do you want to show yourself? Fred?
Fred, you're
Hi, Bob, everybody.
There you are.
In the early 70s, I'd be in India for Martithi, and Erich would always spend the entire 2 or 3 days of our Martithi celebration awake almost through the night. And you'd get to see Erich in Meherabad, somewhere on the side, either by the tin cabin near the Samadhi, or out in the field someplace, and we would talk about subjects about Baba and spirituality. And at that time, I was very interested in becoming a Sufi. And we talked through the night. And Erich said to me, Fred, why do you become a Sufi? You're such a happy-go-lucky freelancing fellow. And I said, I don't know. I thought I met Mersheda Dus, and I was quite impressed with it. He said, Fred, your personality doesn't fit a Sufi. You should not become a Sufi. And so, of course, I took that to heart. And later on, I've been to India about 18 times, and this was in the early 90s. I befriended a couple from Spain that had a Panasonic video recorder, and they said, will you tape us telling our story at Mandalay Hall in Meherazad? And so I got there early in a rickshaw, This was a regular pilgrim day. I believe it was a Sunday. And I approached Ivana and I said, Ivana, can you make sure the windows are cloaked with a black drape so I could keep the light out and tape these people? She says, well, why don't you ask Erich? And so I said, excuse me, Erich, can I put the black curtains down so I can tape you asking these people their story? And he looked at me and said, can't you speak to me directly? Why did you have to go through Ivana? I said, well, I guess I was timid. He says, are you a man or a mouse? And I said, well, Erich, I'm awful sorry. So he said, yes, you can do that. But it showed a side of Erich, how he would basically be honest to the point of telling you exactly how he felt. And I remember his embraces also. And he was very special to me. Che Baba.
Freddie, sing My Mind.
What did you say, Alan?
I'm asking Freddie to sing My Mind if he wants to.
Well, it's up to the people
Sure.
if they want that.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead. What we'll do is that, and then Rosalie and maybe Karen can close us out with Erich's prayer. So go ahead, Fred.
Well, Erich loved this song, as many Mandalay loved it. Every time I'd go to India, I learned it. It's a Sufi song, Manonash Calypso, written by Henry or Hank Midland. And it goes like this. Now, mind, he always want to crow, work so fast while the heart works slow. Baba says that mind must go. So we sing Manonash Calypso. And the tune go, mind, mind, stupid mind. Why don't you go away and leave me behind? Mind, mind, why don't you let me be so I can find reality? Now mind just loves duality, tells me God is illusory. Mind, you are my enemy. You just want me to want me. Mind, who do you think you are? You make what's near seem oh so far. Wait till I get you to Ahmednagar. We'll fix you with the avatar. Mind, mind, stupid mind. Why don't you go away and leave me behind? Mind, mind, why don't you let me be so I can find reality? Now mind just loves duality, tells me God is illusory. Mind, you are my enemy. You just want me to want me. Mind, who do you think you are? You make what's near seem oh so far. Wait till I get you to Ahmednagar. We'll fix you with the avatar. Mind, mind, stupid mind. Why don't you go away and leave me behind? Mind, mind, why don't you let me be so I can find reality? Now, mind, you're such a pesky creature. Sometimes you're just too hard to feature. First, you're a beggar and then a preacher. And now you even want to be a spiritual teacher. Oh, my mind, I've known you oh so long. Send you back where you belong. Everything you do comes out wrong. So let us sing the chorus of this song. Mind, mind, stupid mind. Why don't you go away and leave me behind? Mind, mind, why don't you let me be so I can find reality? Now, mind, he thinks he's so cool. He thinks he really makes the rules. Mind, don't know he's just a tool. Oh, my mind, you're such a fool. Mind, mind, stupid mind. Why don't you go away and leave me behind? Mind, mind, why don't you let me be so I can find reality? Now, mind, have you ever heard of Haya? That's spelled H-A-Y-A. That's the Sufi term for modesty. Oh no, you're just too full of Maya, burning like a forest fire, all day long with desire. Mind, you think you're in the driver's seat? Think you're something that can't be beat? Remind me of a parakeet. All day long go tweet, tweet, tweet. Mind, mind, stupid mind. Why don't you go away and leave me behind? Mind, mind, why don't you let me be so I can find reality? Chai Baba.
Well, I have to say, you have a tremendous voice. That was a beautiful rendition, but you really do have a wonderful voice. I'd love to hear more of your songs, Fred. Thank you for that today.
Thank you, Ruthie. Che Baba.
Che Baba, sweet. That was wonderful. Rosalie. Go ahead.
Jay Baba, I have to say this first because Fred, I love the Manonash Calypso. And one time at RT in India, I sang it after RT. And I was washing my hands. I think it was still the pilgrim retreat. It was the pilgrim center. I was washing my hands and this man came up behind me and he says, we feel that song was inappropriate. And I said, I only see you. He was a Catholic priest. And I think Baba wanted that little scenario for me because you can't speak for everyone, you know. And I would say again, Karen, you do a wonderful job. Go ahead and get a swell head because balloons go up and it's a glorious thing. You've earned it, Karen. And you've also earned the silence of certain parties. I want to share this. This was hanging up in Erich's room. I love this. He found this in the paper in India in the late 90s. Habit. You may know me. I am your constant companion. I'm your greatest helper. I am your heaviest burden. I will push you on and drag you down to failure. I am at your command. Half the tasks you do might as well be turned over to me. I am able to do them quickly and I'm able to do them the same every time. If that is what you want, I'm easily managed. All you have to do is be firm with me. Show me how you want it done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of all great men and women, and of course, servant of failures as well. I have made all the great individuals who have ever been great, and I've made all the failures too. But I work with the precision of a marvelous computer with the intelligence of a human being. You may run me for profit or run me to ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Be firm with me, and I will put the world at your feet. Who am I? I'm habit. Habits make good servants, but poor masters. And I thought, I mean, that was like hanging in this beautiful person's room. And I'm just like so amazed that men didn't flock to this celebration because he was like such a you know, magnificent, beautiful soul that Baba wanted him as a companion. Wow, 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 wow. What better thing could a person be? Yeah, he was so beautiful, so beautiful. So men, if you met him, good for you. If you had to be in the Mandali Hall with him, because I always hated leaving, even though my destiny was with Mara, and Erich knew that. But any one of you men could have walked your bodies over to the porch also. A lot of men were intimidated by Mara. They've told me so. That's how I know, but Jai Baba. So anyway, again, Karen, kudos, Jai Baba.
Thank you,
and I'd like to
Rosalie.
say one other thing. Erich was so natural. He could talk about taking a shit and make it seem natural, which it is. But he was so full of life for his beloved, so full of life.
Jai Baba, Rosalie. Karen, do you want to read Erich's prayer? Do you have it there?
I do. I
Okay.
do.
Perfect ending. Che Baba.
Erich's prayer. Beloved Baba, I remain beholden to you for everything that you have done for me, in spite of what I am and how I am. You have always overlooked my weaknesses and forgiven me my trespasses. You have never once chastised me. On the contrary, you have always showered your love upon me and your graces upon me. I have no words to express my gratitude, but to utter, "Oh Baba, oh Baba, oh Baba." I am grateful to you for everything. I remain grateful to you ever and ever. Oh Baba, I beseech you, implore you, and beg of you, never, never, ever let me down. Baba, never, ever let me down. Never, ever reject me, but accept me as I am and how I am. Oh Baba, guard me and guide me and help me. Hold my hand and lead me on till the very end. Fill me with your love from top to bottom, from side to side, inside and outside, so that your love pervades and permeates me, engulfs and envelops me, and all that is your love and not I. I remain resigned to your will, and let thy will be done always. Jai Baba.
Che Baba. Why don't we have a moment of silence? Thank you, Karen. Jai Baba, if you'd like to unmute, we can all say our Ki Jays.
Ready?
Avatar.
Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher
Meher
Baba
Baba
Ki
ki
Jai.
jai.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki
Ki
Jai.
jai.
Thank you, Alan.
Ready?
I love you.
Baba.
Thank you.
More.
Thank you, Ruthie. Thank you, everything. Thank you, Karen.
Ruthie, can we please see the film again?
Okay, all right.
Please, yeah.
All right, whoever wants to go can go, and I'll put it on again. Thanks for asking, Rosie. Let me see if I got everything lined up here. Yeah, this Rumi, I put this at the end. This is a Rumi poem that Erich kept in his room as well. Rosalie had mentioned something.
Can you read it? I tried to read it before, but it went away too
All right,
fast.
it says, since he is the dispenser of portions, complaint is an act of infidelity. Patience is needful. Patience is the key to the gift. All except God are enemies. He alone is the friend. Now, is it good to complain of a friend to an enemy? So long as he gives me buttermilk, I will not desire honey, for every pleasure has a pain joined with it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Every pleasure has a pain joined with it. Rumi.
Can you repeat it one more time?
Oops. Yeah, let me see if I can get there. Okay, it says.
Wait, I want to record it. Okay.
Well, yeah, okay. It says.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Since he is the dispenser of portions, complaint is an act of infidelity.
Yeah.
Patience is needful. Patience is the key to the gift. All except God are enemies. He alone is the friend. How is it good to complain of a friend to an enemy? So long as he gives me buttermilk, I will not desire honey, for every pleasure has a pain joined with it. Rumi.
Can that go in the chat? Can that go in the chat, Ruthie?
I can try it. I can try it, darling. All right, we'll start here at the beginning for the man of God, Jai Baba.
The man of God is drunken without wine. The man of God is full without need. The man of God is rapturous and amazed. The man of God has neither food nor sleep. The man of God is the man of God is the man of God is a king neath beggar's clothes. The man of God is a treasure in a ruin. The man of God is not of wind and earth. The man of God is not of fire and water. The man of God is the man of God is the man of God is a sea without a shore. The man of God rains pearls without clouds. The man of God has 100 moons and skies. The man of God has hundreds of sunshine. The man of God is the man of God is the man of God is wise through the truth. The man of God is not learned from a book. The man of God is beyond faith and disbelief. of God rode away from non-being. The man of God has come sublimely riding. The man of God is concealed, O Shamsuddin. The man of God, do thou seek and find. The man of God is the man of God is.
Beloved Baba, I remain beholden to you for everything that you have done for me. In spite of what I am and how I am, you have always overlooked my weaknesses and forgiven me my trespasses. You've never once chastised me, on the contrary, you have always showered your love upon me and your graces upon me. I have no words to express my gratitude but to utter, oh Baba, oh Baba, oh Baba, I'm grateful to you for everything. I remain grateful to you ever and ever. Oh Baba, I beseech you, implore you, and beg of you. Never, never, ever let me down, Baba, never, ever let me down. Never, ever reject me, but accept me as I am and how I am. Oh Baba, guard me and guide me and help me. Hold my hand and lead me on till the very end. Fill me with your love from top to bottom, from side to side, inside and outside, so that your love pervades and permeates me, engulfs and envelops me, and all that is your love and not I. I remain resigned to your will, and let thy will be done always.